Okay, we're all set? We're good? Okay, let's call to order the Planning Committee meeting for Wednesday, February 21st. It's 4 o'clock. Motion on the minutes. Move seconded. All those in favor, contrary, carried. Our next meeting will be March the 5th in these very council chambers. And the first item on that we have is an application by Fireworks Production for a temporary commercial use permit at 8351 River Road, Duck Island, Lot 87, Section 21, Block 5, North Range 6, and the West Plan 3459-2, and at 8411, 31, and 51 West Road. And the staff recommendations are that be considered for a public hearing to be held on March 18th at 7 o'clock, and the temporary permit be issued. And the night market, this is a 3-year permit. Night market would be going between April and October 24, 25, and 26, and everything is in order. And Laurel, I gather you're going to speak to it. So that will be on the floor after.
Okay.
You're on.
Thank you, Chair. This temporary commercial use permit application is a land use application to allow for the operation of a seasonal outdoor night market event at 8351 River Road in Duck Island during the 2024, 2025, and 2026 seasons, and to allow the associated non-accessory vehicle parking at 8411, 8431, and 8451 West Road. The proposal in this application is largely consistent with the previous applications, with the exception of an additional hour of operation proposed on Sunday evenings and 2 additional operating hours on Sunday evenings of long weekends. The applicant has conducted public consultation with the surrounding businesses in the area, and no concerns were raised in that process. The applicant is required to cover all city and RCMP staffing expenses incurred as a result of providing the necessary staffing levels for the proposed event, and to provide a bond for the estimated annual staffing costs prior to the commencement of each operational year. The application has been reviewed by the city's bylaws, business licensing, building approvals and transportation departments, and the RCMP and Richmond Fire Rescue, and all operational issues have been addressed. Thank you, and I am available for questions.
Questions on this? Carol?
I was speaking to some people who live just west of Number 3 Road, that area, and they were concerned about noise complaints, and the music was quite loud at night. I noticed on page PLN 12 that the city can ticket for noise. Have we ever given a ticket for noise?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I can't speak specifically to whether or not we've been ticketed for any noise associated with that event. What I would suggest is we do have our Director of Community Bylaws present. I don't know if he'd be able to elaborate further on that for Council.
Okay, Mr. Corrado.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we received 1 noise complaint in 2023. We received 1 parking complaint in 2022.
Okay.
Our initial step is to educate, warn, and then proceed to ticketing. So in this instance, it wouldn't be our first choice, as this is a first time.
Well, it's always good to educate. So in the case, when you educated and worked with the vendor, they were able to adjust the noise, I understand, so it wasn't quite as loud?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we typically we look at the origin or the source of the noise. I can look further into that matter to get the details of the case. But suffice to say, the investigator would have gotten back to the complainant, concluded the file, and that complainant would have been made aware of the solution.
Perfect. Okay, good. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions? All right, a motion, I'll move it. Second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Contrary, carried. We'll go to the council on Monday and hopefully a public hearing on the March 18th, 2024. Thank you very much. The next item number 2, is the application by Liang Designs for the rezoning at 7560 Ash Street from single detached RSF1 zone to a single detached RS2E zone and a single detached South McLennan Center zone ZS14 zone, and it's to give first, second, and third reading. Remember, now we're under different rules. It's not just first reading, it's all three. Laurel, you're on again.
Thank you, Chair. The proposed rezoning facilitates the subdivision of one single-family RS1F lot into one single-family RS2E lot fronting onto Ash Street and one single detached ZS14 South McLennan City Center lot fronting onto Armstrong Street. The application was previously presented to Planning Committee and Council on multiple occasions, but was referred back to staff, and this report responds to that referral. There is an existing owner-occupied single-family home on the proposed western lot, or Lot 1, which will be retained. The applicant has agreed to provide a minimum 2-bedroom secondary suite of minimum 65 square meters, or 700 square feet, in any future construction of a dwelling unit on proposed Lot 1, and a minimum 1-bedroom secondary suite of minimum 37 square meters, 400 square feet, on Lot 2. The applicant is required to provide a 9-meter wide road dedication along the entire east property line of the subject property for Armstrong Street, ultimate road width of 18 meters. Construction of Armstrong Street, along with the frontage improvements on Ash Street, and servicing and utility works are to be undertaken as part of a servicing agreement required prior to subdivision. There are no existing bylaw-sized trees on the subject property or on adjacent city property. The applicant has agreed to the planting of a minimum of 2 trees in the front yard and 2 trees in the backyard of each of the proposed lots for a total of 8 new trees. In addition, in accordance with the province's Bill 44, a public hearing may not be held for a rezoning application that complies with the OCP. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none. I am going to ask the applicant if you would like to delegate on this, because last time I didn't ask him and I was told. Would you like to say anything? You're good, you're good, okay. And no further questions of staff, then I'd move first, second, and third, and that the other bylaw be abandoned. Seconded, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Josh. Okay, appreciate it. The next application is by Lucas Holdner for an agricultural land reserve non-adhering residential use and rezoning of a portion of 12900 Stevenson Highway and 11311 Rice Mill Road from Agriculture AG1 to Agriculture AG3. You can see the corollaries that are there, and it was going to be introduced, and in this case, only given first reading. And we'll go to Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proposal includes both an application to the Agricultural Land Commission and a rezoning application in order to allow the existing seasonal farm labor accommodations on site. The subject site is designated agriculture in the official community plan. The OCP also contains policy indicating that seasonal farm labor accommodation may be considered so long as the accommodation is accessory and supportive of the farm operation. The family-owned farm operation, Richmond Country Farms, farms approximately 400 acres comprised of land throughout Richmond and the South Okanagan. The subject site containing the accommodation is approximately 40 acres and includes a number of active crops, roadside stand, farm-based winery, and farm-related events. The farm operation includes a total of 26 seasonal farm laborers provided through the federal government's Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program. The applicant has indicated that the laborers are needed due to heavy reliance on intensive hand labor when growing fresh market produce. The buildings used to house the workers consist of 4 portable modular homes and a cabin for 5 buildings in total, 3 located on 12900 Stevenson Highway and 2 located on 11311 Rice Mill Road. The applicant has submitted a code report which was reviewed by the city's Building Approvals Department and determined no further upgrades are required. However, a building permit application is still required to legitimize the existing buildings. As per zoning requirements, if the seasonal farm labor accommodation is no longer required for the farm operation, all area used for this purpose must be removed and restored to its original state. This is further secured through a legal agreement to be registered on title. Finally, the proposal was reviewed and supported by the city's Food Security and Agricultural Advisory Committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? I just have one, if I may. We've done this before, have we not? Applied to the agricultural land reserve so we can have farm labor on a property? Did we not?
To the chair, this would be the first project zoned specifically for this seasonal farm labor
I just
accommodation.
reminding back to the McPhails, way back, long before some people were on council. Okay, I thought staff would know. Okay, Andy, sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, and through the chair, thanks for the report. I'll be supporting it. It's a good report, and I think that it's just a reality of life. It's not just supportive of farming and agriculture, it's actually essential. We probably have a shortage of this kind of housing in Richmond to support agriculture, and a lot of farmers depend on temporary farm workers. So this is a very important step, and I just want to thank you for bringing the report forward. So I'll be in support, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? All right, I'm going to move that we forward to the Agricultural Land Commission and also be given first reading, and it's moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Josh. Okay. Oh, you're up again. Okay, all right. The next one is an application by Jason Leventon for an agricultural land reserve non-adhering residential use and rezoning at 1843 1 Westminster Highway from AG1 to AG3. And again, it's to go to the agricultural land reserve and also given first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be brief. This proposal is similar to the previous proposal and includes both an application to the ALC and a rezoning application to allow the existing seasonal farm labor accommodation on site. The family-owned farm operation, East Richmond Nurseries, farms approximately 25 acres and is a nursery operation established in the 1980s. The farm operation includes a total of 6 seasonal farm laborers provided through the federal government Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program. The applicant has indicated that the laborers are needed to assist with the growing the nursery stock. The building used to house the workers is the existing barn located along Westminster Highway. The building is listed on the city's heritage inventory and is proposed to remain with minor interior and exterior changes required to accommodate BC Building Code requirements. The property owner has agreed to register a legal agreement on title prohibiting demolition or exterior changes to the building without consent from the city to ensure heritage character defining elements are maintained. The applicant has also submitted a code report which was reviewed by the city's Building Approvals Department and identified remaining upgrades to achieve compliance, which will require a building permit application. The proposal was reviewed and supported by the city's Food Security and Agriculture Advisory Committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councilor Alexa. Go ahead, you're on.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the light to go. Thanks. Thank you for this report. So on page 91, it talks about the legal title preventing demolition and exterior changes because it is a heritage piece. Now, if they weren't signing this, they still would need a demolition permit to do any demolition work. But this does protect the sort of heritage feel of it because it prevents them from also doing exterior changes. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, that's correct.
Okay. But is the demolition a little bit like redundant because we have to give a demolition permit?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, the demolition clause in there just further provides the city with protection for the heritage defining elements to ensure that if they were to apply for demolition, that they would first require consent from the city in order to do so. So it's a bit of a belts and suspenders approach that we're taking.
Thank you. Okay. Just a second comment. We get a lot of different kinds of reports, and this one's got that legal encumbrance that we're adding to it. But I'm wondering if we can get for each of these planning reports, similar how we get the development data application sheet, that we could get something that summarizes all the costs that the city's charging, the deposits we're requiring, the construction works that we're requiring, as well as any covenants, SRWs, or registration of legal agreements. If we could have them all summarized on one page, and then we can have, or 2 pages if it goes, or 3 if it goes that long. But if it's sort of summarized in a bit of a table, then I think we could all see and have a pretty strong understanding of like what the applicant is putting forward.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, and I see my director's got his mic hot here, but maybe I'll take a stab at this first, is that the considerations that are attached to our staff report do provide quite a bit of detail in terms of what the agreements are required and what the applicant is agreeing to, including some of those costs, those SRWs, and the dedications that are all required. In many cases, they are quite comprehensive and pages long. I hesitate to suggest that we'd be able to summarize all of those requirements in a simple table.
Well, they could refer to the page that they're on, or it could, so it could be fleshed out as the appendix, but then we could at least see the summary of it instead of having to wade through ourselves and figure it out.
I'll ask if my director has anything further to add to that.
Joe or Wayne, whoever, help us out on this one?
Through the chair, I would just echo Mr. Reese's comments. This information is already attached to every rezoning report in the form of the rezoning considerations. So the rezoning considerations do outline all of the financial and legal requirements of the application. In terms of being able to summarize costs, it would be very difficult for us to do that, as a number of costs, especially servicing related works, will not be known until the development of those design drawings are conducted.
Right, but those could be. The constructed works could be listed in pretty tight summary of, sidewalk, moving fire hydrant, cutting a tree, not cutting a tree.
Through the chair, all of that information is already contained in the report. We will take the feedback and look to see if there's a way for us to condense the information and report back in future meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carol?
So I'm looking at the plan on page PLN 105, and it shows basically 4 bedrooms, a living room, 2 offices, a kitchen, and a mudroom, and a bunch of storage areas. But I understand they're looking for seasonal workers, 6 seasonal workers, so they're going to have to bunk in more than one to a room?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, my understanding is not all 6 are on the site at a given time. The applicant is present today, though, that could speak further to that.
Okay, and this is converting a barn into basically finished living space. In the previous proposal, if the modular homes were no longer needed, they would be removed. So would we make them remove the walls if it was going to go back to being a barn again?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, yes, so it would have to return to its original state prior to bringing forward the changes needed to accommodate the seasonal farm labor accommodation.
Okay, but sometimes a farm can be out of business for a year if the crops, if the fields go fallow or whatever. Is there some forgiveness? Because rather than rip it down as soon as one group of seasonal workers leave, I mean, things can go badly, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, there is some forgiveness built into the requirements.
Okay.
So as long as the seasonal farm labor accommodations do not need to be removed when not occupied, if the use is on an ongoing annual basis.
Okay.
And there is some forgiveness
That's
within
good,
that.
because I've heard of people who had farms where just everything they got flooded, and so they're out of business for a year, and it'd be ridiculous to tear it all apart if. Second question is, it's a barn. If we're going to convert this into the 4 rooms for seasonal workers and the 2 offices, will they then require another barn for the operation of the farm? Will they have to build a new barn?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, my understanding is no. However, the applicant is present today and can speak further to that.
Would the current zoning and that's on place right now allow for another barn if they were required to have one?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, any further questions of staff? All right, we have a motion on the floor is to forward to the Agricultural Land Commission and to be given first reading. Seconded, all those in favor, contrary, carried. And thank you for both very much. Thank you all. All right, we're good. Managers report. Actually, I have a question of managers. I was gonna, you have a question? Yep. Go ahead. Well, maybe while you're coming, I can, just a question to staff for the edifice of committee and actually council. On these items, with regard to going to the Land Commission, whether we can only give them first reading. And with the right to farm and what governments are saying, et cetera, I'm wondering why we can't give them a second and third reading, because obviously if we recommend it, I'm assuming that the ALC is going to, with the right to farm, rubber stamp this and send it back and let everybody farm. Otherwise, we wouldn't send it.
Through the
ahead.
chair to the chair, what will happen with this, should council endorse the recommendations, it would go for first reading, and then it would proceed to a public hearing the following month. There is also a requirement that prior to the zoning bylaw being adopted, we would first need to receive the approval from the ALC. So that is a condition of the adoption of the rezoning bylaw.
Okay, so these will automatically go to a public hearing then? Correct. Okay. With the new rules and regulations, we got to keep ourselves up to date. I know you're up to date on. Alexa, let's go ask a question while we're on, and then you can have the whole floor. Go ahead.
No, actually, it was more, I'd like to move a referral if the
Oh,
chair
okay.
would
All right.
allow.
Well,
We
let's
can
hear
wait
from
till
staff
after.
then first. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. I just want to do a quick update. We have a new planner on staff that I wanted to introduce, Mr. Yuli Shao, who's in the audience here, who will be taking over our
Oh,
agricultural.
Good.
He'll be taking over our agricultural portfolio from Stephen, who's going to be
Okay.
moving into more housing-related issues. And Yuli has been with the Sunshine Coast Regional District since 2017 and has all kinds of experience in agriculture and development.
Good, great stuff. Welcome. Yeah. Is that it?
That's it for me.
Oh, wow, that's good news. Got him come back again. Okay, Alexa, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'd like to move a referral that staff report back on the feasibility of adopting a new OCP policy to provide a density bonus or incentive for commercial and mixed-use developments to provide fully furnished medical office space within projects. So,
I'll second that to put it on the floor.
thanks. We heard from the Division of Family Practice, and there was a referral out, and I know they've spoken to Katie Furlan from the Economic Division and talking about how things can work better. We also know that we have some developers who are already having to produce a certain amount of commercial. They would like to, obviously, if they could produce a little bit more residential in exchange for maybe fully preparing the spaces so that the young doctors could move in, it would be more economical to kit it out when they first build it instead of retrofitting it after the fact. And it would help attract doctors into Richmond. So it could kind of be one of those win-win without pulling away from anything else. It could, and because it's and just have staff look at it, see what comes up, if it makes sense to do it, and they can
Makes good
respond on
sense.
that.
Okay. Okay, you done? Okay. Chuck?
Yes, I will support that because we know that we have a shortage of family doctors in Richmond, and probably, a motion like that would address the issue. And I also know that some cities such as Surrey, they're aggressively adapting their OCP to allow or even encourage those kind of setups. But my question is to staff. I know that in response to the presentation being made by the practitioners network, right? Yeah. Sometime in December, staff, in the report, it's being referred to staff for a follow-up. And staff said that probably within the first quarter of 2024, a report will come back. So I wonder if this would be included would it take too long, right, to be included in the report that will come back? Because I want to address it, all at once instead of being chopped up and, compartmentized, the discussion.
Okay, can we go to Suzanne, staff on this one? I got Suzanne, where are you? Here.
Mr. Chairman, I can deal with that. I think the referral in response to that presentation was pretty general. This is fairly specific. So I don't think it's a big deal to do this work, but it may take a little bit more time than just the first quarter. And I think the intent is that we would have developers at the outset finish some space so that doctors and practitioners down the road wouldn't have to do tenant improvement or as much tenant improvement. So it might take a little bit longer, but we're talking about a month or two, not a
If I
considerable amount of
may,
time.
as well, would we know exactly how much space because a number of the clinics throughout Richmond, as you well know, we're short of clinics. Some are relatively big, some are small. And I think we should have a standard of where somebody can come in and a doctor can operate out of it. If you go to some of them, many of the doctors are locum and they move through and they don't have their practice there. As a matter of fact, I tried to visit one over the holiday in Broadmoor. There's a little hole in the wall, 2 doctors on there, and you may just get a viewing room, and that's about all you're going to get. So I support what you're saying. So hopefully we get more space than not enough, and that to make it very worthwhile. So that, I mean, there are 50,000 people that don't have a doctor in Richmond, and I think we probably need 5 or 6 clinics throughout the clinic. So I support the resolution. Sorry, Andy.
Thanks, and through the chair. Well, Mr. Ursic just answered the question I was going to ask, but I would like just to have it reread one more time because I haven't seen it in writing, so.
Go ahead.
That staff report back on the feasibility of adopting a new OCP policy to provide a density bonus/incentive for commercial and mixed-use developments to provide fully furnished medical office space within projects. And they would work with the Division of Family Practice to help define what that might look like.
Could I just ask a question? Do we need the propriety of giving density as opposed to looking at this as a good mixed use? So we're using density as an incentive if they come back with it. I'm just trying to understand.
This is what I'm proposing, that we offer a carrot for our developers because there is some risk in building it out. So, I was speaking with Jennifer West from the Division of Family Practice earlier today, and she said, the current model right now is that you want a sink in every room, so that you reduce the transmission of germs and et cetera. And so building it in the first place versus refitting all that plumbing after the fact is a huge cost consideration. But it's still an investment. So if you build out a whole bunch of offices, they all have sinks in them, and you're running a bank, you don't necessarily want sinks in all your offices. So, the developers are going to want some sort of something in return for doing this, I would imagine, and not just be left hanging with all this weird space that they've just created.
Let's see what comes back. Carol?
Thank you very much. So my question is, I love the idea of putting in more medical offices because, boy, we sure need them, and it would help get young doctors started. My concern is if we make density bonuses for these medical offices and then they turn into something different, what guarantee would we have that they would stay medical offices and not turn into, I don't know, accountant offices or something?
Okay, Joe? I'll go with staff on this one.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're getting well into the
Yeah, we're
details
getting
here.
too far down.
I don't think this has to be too complex. The sort of the bonusing that we're thinking of would be minor. It might not be bonusing. It might be some incentives, some concessions through a rezoning, through a development. I think you really should leave it to the developers, though, to determine which projects and how much, because they have a better idea of what can be leased. In terms of making sure accountants aren't, capitalizing on free sinks, you would simply put a covenant or something like that on the property. It's not insurmountable.
So a covenant would cover that. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Any other managers' report? We're adjourned. Okay, thanks very much.
All right, we are good to go. Councillor Heed's on Zoom. Okay, yep. So we've got Councillor Heed on Zoom. The rest of us are here. Okay, this is a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for February 21st, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the December 20th meeting? Second, all those in favor? Perfect. The next committee meeting will be on March 20th, 2024, tentatively at 4 p.m. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. I have a delegation here. Mr. Nathan Devanovich is going to delegate on the alternative 5-year transportation capital plan, and we do have your submission. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair and council members. In 2014, TransLink released a 10-year report, but the funding for it was reduced when the 2015 transit referendum failed. So, and then in 2022, they reissue basically the 2014 report with slight changes. None of these two reports have been approved by any municipal council in Metro Vancouver. It was just approved by TransLink Mayor Council and Board of Directors, but they never asked for your approval. And you don't even have any contract with TransLink like you had with BC Electric and BC Hydro. So you have, very little leeway in a way. I mean, you have your own transportation plan, and many other municipalities have transportation plan that state that by 2030, the mode share should be 50-50, i.e. 50% of the trips by transit and active transportation and 50% by cars. All along, I stated that TransLink plans are not ambitious enough and would not accelerate our transit ridership. My report is different than TransLink, but the new report that the BC Federation of Labor issued on the last Friday, on the 16th of February, is actually very similar to my report. It's trying to condense and accelerate things instead of 10 years into a 5-year plan. Most cities in BC have already told the BC government that they would not achieve the 2030 climate targets mandated by Clean BC. Furthermore, I mean, we have to acknowledge that changes done to TransLink in 2007 achieved nothing, and they were a mistake. Putting TransLink in the same boat as BC Ferries was a mistake. Urban transit is way different than intercity ferry services. Richmond contributes way more money per capita to TransLink budget than it gets back. Furthermore, Richmond has no say, of course, in any budget or priorities implementing the bus rapid transit or BRT. The R7 was proposed, but the independent report I got from my Freedom of Information request was mostly retracted, and I send you a copy of that report, and I forgot to, just hold on a second. Maybe Richmond should copy Surrey and put a picture of the BRT on the shopping bags. That's what Richmond Surrey Invest has, the BRT on their shopping bag. And maybe this way, TransLink will get the message that that Richmond is really wants to get improved transit, because they are putting the BRT in Langley and Maple Ridge well ahead of Richmond, and Richmond has way more ridership than those two cities together even. And it's just, today's article in the Vancouver Sun only highlights the top 10 areas in transit ridership. Well, Richmond Center is actually number 16 out of the 47 sub-areas in 2021. But I think with increased population and new construction, Richmond Center is probably closer to number 10 in 2024. Richmond should copy from North Shore municipalities and do its own transportation survey. And I mean, all indications are that the BC transportation budget that will be released tomorrow will not provide any extra money for TransLink. The BC legislature
Sir, you're out of time. Can you wrap it up?
doesn't even have a transportation committee like other legislators across North America, you know.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Councillor Wolf has a question.
Yes, thank you through the chair to our delegate. Just a couple questions, actually. First off, in your municipal scan, what staff do municipalities have that Richmond does not, that might be beneficial to us doing that survey or helping us reach some of the goals that you've set out in your alternative plan? So what like staffing positions have you noted in other areas?
Well, I mean, the North Shore has been doing the transportation survey for quite a few years. The three municipalities do it together on a cost-share basis, but of course, the North Shore is about 200,000 people. Richmond is even more than that, 200,000. And so Richmond should do its own survey because, TransLink, they sort of do it every 5 or 6 years. You need to know basically annually what's going on. Are we getting more people to use transit and active transportation? And if not, then we have to improve the service and, returning the services that we had, like the interurban to Steveston is a good example, that
I think the question was about staffing. The question was about staffing, how have other
the
cities...
staffing, I think some cities have maybe more staffing per capita than Richmond, but I think it's mostly just Vancouver that really has lots of extra staff,
Thanks. My second question is, in our package that you submitted earlier, I think it's under the streets heading, there were two parts that were about divest TransLink from financing major road networks. Could you just comment on that one? And the next one was divest TransLink from planning for goods movement. So that
it just gets too complicated when TransLink is involved in so many things, and they're trying to promote transit as the main function. Well, they shouldn't be promoting roads, but that's what they've done. Their first function was the Golden Ears Bridge. When they were, and they promoted that, instead of, doing more passengers ferries maybe or whatever. There used to be the Albion ferry to Maple Ridge,
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. My final question through the chair is, you submitted something today to us, just that you wanted it to be added to the report.
Okay.
What's it called here again? Oh, here. The policy note. Was there something from this document that you wanted to highlight specifically? Because I believe you submitted this today.
Is that from the Vancouver Sun article? I'm not sure.
It was policynote.ca, connecting BC to your vision.
That's from the BC Federation of Labor report.
Oh, okay,
that was released last Friday on the 16th. And as I said, that report basically similar to my proposal to get moving way faster on improvement instead of 10 years, concentrating to 5 years, and that's the thing.
So shall we add that to the minutes of the meeting so that we can refer to it at a later date if we need it? Okay. Are there any other questions of this speaker? Okay. Thank you very much for coming forward. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is number 2, 2024 Active Transportation Initiatives. And we have a staff recommendation that we receive this for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further to add to the report.
Okay, Councillor Wolf, you have a question?
Yes, I think 2 questions. First off, will we be able to see a list soon, maybe in a memo form of the kind of priority? I know in the package here, it includes the Plan 2024 Active Transportation Initiatives, but like, for example, the cycling network plan update, like, would we see these just when they come to this committee, or is there already a generated list of priorities? Because, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, this is a work plan for the year for the Active Transportation Committee, and those items are not determined at this point. We will be engaging with the cycling community to develop, and those projects will be brought forward through future capital budget processing for council consideration, so you'll see it at that time.
Okay, next question then is, where would pedestrian bridges fit under here? For example, there's one in Hamilton that connects the East Hamilton over the Highway 91 or 91A section. So where would that fit in?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, that would fit as part of our ongoing review based on prioritizing locations for pedestrian enhancements against other priorities in the city. I'm not aware of a location that's been identified at this point in time.
Okay, then just to follow up on that, because I believe that one it would fall under provincial jurisdiction because it's going over the provincial highway. So I just want to be sure, because I think I've brought this up for a few years in a row now, and I just don't know where that is going. If this active transportation initiative list is really, does it capture all of them? Because to me, it's there hasn't been movement in that maybe communication with that stakeholder group, the Ministry of Transportation, and then. The other part to this is, you don't have to respond to that because that's just my frustration.
Is there a question?
No, but my next question, or last question is, there was something shared with us, I think about a year or two ago, that listed all the elementary and high schools that the school district has in the city, and it identified a number of issues that were going to be addressed. Do we know when we'll get an updated list on what has been done and what remains to be done?
Absolutely. Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we can bring that forward. We have forthcoming reports in the year regarding safety around schools, and we'll be including the status of those improvements as part of that report.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, look forward to that report. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, I had a couple questions myself. On page 13, it lists the installation of delineators on bike lanes, and I asked the manager of transportation, director of transportation, for maps, and I got these really great maps that make it more specific where the delineators are going to be, and I think I'd like that to be included in the minutes so that the public can see exactly what we're doing, because the list isn't that helpful. You know, it's nice to be able to see where things are happening. So if you could make sure that happens.
Absolutely, we
Mr.
can
B can
certainly
provide
incorporate that.
those maps. Okay, everybody ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Okay, number 3 on the agenda is the Hamilton area traffic calming, and staff are recommending option 3 for Westminster Highway, which is basically traffic calming, and they're recommending option, I think it's 2, for the speed limits on the local roads. And yeah, could you fill us in on what this is all about?
Madam Chair, I have nothing to add to the report. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, questions? Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. First question to the chair, to staff, is under the traffic calming option for Westminster Highway by the Cranberry Daycare, we're recommended to go with option 3, which eventually might lead to option 2. Could you provide an example where that order has happened before in the city, where first we put in the flexible shoulder delineators and then it led to them being removed and a curb-mounted shoulder delineator came next?
I don't, through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I don't know any locations where we've done that. However, for this specific approach, there are a number of traffic calming measures that can be implemented here, and our recommendation is to implement this at a lower cost and to test its effectiveness. And then we can bring forward recommendations for whether that is effective or not and whether we recommend any further improvements to that.
Okay, thanks. My next question related to that same item. I was at the Hamilton Community Association meeting last night. I'm the representative on it. And they had expressed that the Cranberry Daycare that's there now, there was strong opposition from the Child Care Advisory Committee and other Hamilton-specific groups to put it there because of the concern with that kind of blind corner. Do we happen to know if there's any plan to move it? Like, did it have some temporary reason or timing to put it there? Because the old fire hall site, which is on more of a straight section just down the road, is still vacant with, as far as I know, no plans for that site yet. So do you happen to know if, like, we're potentially doing quite a costly project here, and I think the main reason is because of the driveway in and out and the children walking in this section. Yeah, so do you happen to know if there's any potential move of that daycare facility to somewhere else in Hamilton?
Councillor Wolf, can you clarify the question of what the concern is the location of the childcare?
Yes, because I think even with the what we're recommended to do here, the flexible shoulder delineator, there's still going to be the issue of parents who are driving or picking up slowing down or stopping on the single lane Westminster Highway with that blind corner. And apparently cars are able to go 150 kilometers an hour around that corner. It's still going to be quite a hazard. So I'm thinking maybe there's a chance that with the new developments happening in Hamilton, the daycare could get moved to a better, safer location.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, sorry.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mr. Ersic?
I'm not aware of any plans to relocate that childcare. So I think that it would be better to deal with any concerns with the treatment as recommended. It doesn't mean that at some point in the future it might be relocated. It doesn't mean that it can't happen in the future, but I'm not aware of any immediate plans to do that.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Don't have any other questions, but I have a couple of comments. Can I do that now?
Okay.
Okay. So I met with the committee last night, and they've created a subcommittee for transportation issues, and they'd actually like to meet with our staff beyond what's in this report tonight. So they did all at the meeting express support for the two staff recommendations, the flexible shoulder delineators and the speed limit reduction from 50 to 30 on all the local roads. But there's the highest priority that they've expressed for multiple years now in a row is the Smith Crescent, and two intersections of it. One right at Gilly, which is the closest intersection to the school where there's a major development happening, and there's very poor safety markings, and it's not a four-way stop like they'd asked for. There's no slowing down of traffic, and there's trucks backing in diagonally, so it remains a very high concern, and they're going to want to express that to our staff. And then the other end of Smith Crescent, where it heads north and abuts with the Westminster Highway, apparently there used to be a full-on traffic light there. That predates me living in Hamilton, so I'm not sure if staff can comment on if that was a main, like a full-on light, and then what was the reason behind turning it to a pedestrian activated light, and is there potential for it to go back to a full stoplight?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, perhaps I can help with that one. There was a temporary traffic signal there that was there while Gilly Road was being constructed as part of that process. It was a pedestrian activated light prior to that process, and it was returned to that. Certainly at some point in the future, as development progresses through the area, there is a desire to turn that into a regular traffic signal, or potentially a traffic circle, which might benefit the speeding and other issues as well. The challenge is that there's a driveway immediately within that intersection on the north side of the road, which creates a problem. But should that change, I think a traffic circle would be a better solution there.
Great. That's positive to hear. I'm sure that they're going to be bringing that issue up with you and sharing an example of a number of close calls that have happened recently, and one Hamilton Elementary student who was hit and has been severely injured and just went through reconstruction surgery. So
maybe it'd be a good suggestion for staff to go and make a presentation to the Hamilton Community Center board.
Yes. They're reaching out as of last night.
Madam Chair, if I may offer, is part of this whole process with that came to the options that we brought to you today. We did do a large public process out there, and we've actually talked to a number of the people that Councillor Wolf is speaking to. We did do some improvements at the end of Gilly Road, marking crosswalks and things, but certainly we're happy to talk to them about it. And anyone that would like to come and meet with us, we're happy to meet with them, but we did already do a large public process with this group.
You had meetings with the actual board of the Hamilton Community Center?
Madam Chair, we met with everyone that wanted to come out and meet with us out in Hamilton, and we did a very, very large mail out and public process. So, if the members of the board, I'm sure they live out there, if they do, they were invited to participate. And if I knew who they were, I would be able to tell you whether they participated or not.
Maybe you could follow up, Councillor Wolf. Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is a really interesting report. It just, I'm looking at the ICBC numbers, 117 incidents in the last 5 years, 82% were on Westminster Highway. I like the idea of the flexible delineators at $20,000. It's a good way to test and see if they do the job that we're hoping for them to do. I am a little curious, though, about immediately going from 50 kilometers to 30 kilometers, and I wonder if we couldn't put up like a bunch of slow down, stop signs, just to allow people to slow children at play, slow down, this is a neighborhood, not a racetrack, and maybe get a little creative with our signage. And I'm wondering if we can do this in phases and see the areas that are worse and start with stop signs, or not stop signs, but slow down signs, and see if they're effective, and then decide whether we should go to the next level. But I'd like to hear from other councillors how they feel about it. Councillor Al?
Yes, actually, I have some questions about this report. Yes, I support the first recommendation regarding Western Highway fronting Canberra Children's Center. That option 3 I can support. But for reducing the speed limit in the whole area from 50 to 30 kilometers, I have some questions. For example, PWT page 20, staff said that 1,665 surveys were mailed, only 437 received.
Okay.
And then it was being summarized below. So I want to make sure that, the table itself represents the percentage reviewed in the 437 surveys, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Arrow, that's correct. So that's 62% of everyone who responded.
So 60% of the 437 response.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. So in that case, I think this is a very small number. If we have such 1,665, and then only 400 people responded, and even within these people who responded, the percentage is kind of split, right? It's not overwhelmingly in support of the reducing the thing. And my other question is that if you look at PWT 25, and I think staff mentioned it in the report as well. Actually, the speeding problem is a perception rather than a hard science. You look at this table, probably most of the cases are not serious, at least, right? There may be some speeding, but it's not. So I wonder whether or not it's really justified to put the whole area from 50 to 30 kilometers.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Au, and I think that speaks to both the chair's question as well as yours. I think with what we've seen, like there is, people generally observe the existing speed limits. And so whether it's effective to add more signs to say slow down, people are generally observing the speed limit. And so there's no speeding issues from that regard. The reason for bringing this forward is that we've heard a lot of complaints over the years of perceived speeding, or that people feel uncomfortable with how fast other cars are driving. And so a lot of this recommendation is really to meet the needs of the local neighborhood and what is comfortable and what makes everyone feel safe. From a safety perspective, there's not a large number of accidents and safety concerns based on the current posted speed limits, but based on the concerns we've heard and the questions we've had of perceived speeding, maybe 50 kilometers per hour is not the right limit, and maybe people would feel more comfortable with 30 kilometers per hour, which is why we went out with this consultation effort to gather public feedback. And to Councillor Au's point, I think it's correct. For those that did not respond, we would not know where they stand. So all we know is that for those who have responded, there is a slight majority that supports this prerogative.
And a follow-up question. Do we in any area of this, do we in other areas of the city that we have done this kind of changes to put the whole area into a reduced speed limit?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, currently we only do this on a request basis of where complaints come up. I think we've done this in the Flurries and the Barnes neighborhood. And then we've also reduced speed limits within the Steveston Village area.
And Madam Chair, through you to Councillor Au, we're actually, we have requests from other neighborhoods to do similar things. So as Bita said, that we are going to be doing this at this point in time on a request basis. And this neighborhood appears to be requesting this, and this is why we brought it forward to you.
Okay, my last question is, okay, now I understand that, when you send out a general survey, people might not respond because, they don't know what to say. But now staff come up with a recommendation saying that reducing this from 50 to 30. Can we do another survey really targeting this issue, saying that there's a proposal to reduce the speed limit in the whole area and see what people say about it? Can that be done?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, we can absolutely do that. But we just did it, right? And I don't know that we'd get a different answer. What I find really interesting in all of this is that when we look at national averages on people that would like to see a reduction of neighborhood speed limits, it's around 60%. And I found it really interesting that this group came out basically in the national average. So that also leads me to think that it would be similar. It might change a percent or two. And the other piece there is we put a strong effort into getting a response from this neighborhood. I think the response rate was quite high. I don't know if we'd be able to get a higher response rate, but certainly if council directs us to, we would certainly go out and do it again.
Any other questions, Councillor Au? No. Okay, we got Councillor Heed on Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to study this to death, which is probably the craziest thing to do. There are particular councillors that want to do surveys until they get the answer they want. If you don't like the one that traffic just did, and as Mr. B said, very, very recent, you want to do another one, you don't like that one, we're going to have to do another one. We study things to death. And I got to tell you that that's not the way we should be conducting business here in the city of Richmond. We're expected to make decisions, and we need to make those decisions. And I empathize with Councillor Wolf on a lot of this. So I have a couple of questions, and then I'm going to make a comment. What is the truck speed in that area?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the speed data that we have doesn't differentiate between which speed correlates to a truck and which ones to a vehicle. passenger.
Do we have a reduction in speed for the heavy trucks going along Westminster Highway in that area?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, no. The speed limit's 50 kilometers for all vehicles in that area.
Okay, you know, I've been up in that area a lot, and I know Councillor Wolf is very active in that area, and I'll tell you, the trucks that take the shortcut through there, it's terrible. The vehicles that take the shortcut through there, it's absolutely terrible. I am absolutely in favor of reducing the speed in that area. And Mr. B, I really encourage you to go to the community center and reach out to these people versus expecting them to come to you. And you're going to hear some of the stories with respect to that, what's going on in this particular area. But you know, if we're allowing the trucks, the big semis, to go down there, which that's not an off truck route, so they're allowed to go in that area. We're allowing them to do 50K, like we're allowing the cars to do 50K, and then when they make that corner around to go towards Queensboro, there, they're all rubbing the curb. That curb that's been put in. I understand that TransLink did the pathway up there, and it caused some concerns, but you just have to go up there and look at the curb, and it's all rubber tire marks. And I know Councillor Hobbs has already been up there to see it in addition to that. So I would support reducing it to 30K. And other neighborhoods, you're right, Mr. B, other neighborhoods are going to be calling for it. We even have certain jurisdictions, as you're well aware of, in some of the European countries that make it 30K, all within the city limits. I think we're going to see more of that. I think based on the sad scenario that Councillor Wolf gave you with that girl near Lord Byng that has life-altering injuries now, it's all based on speed. We've got to slow people down, and it's just not a perception. I don't care what you say, it's just not a perception. There are speed that is happening there, and I think it's incumbent upon us to put the right measures in place so we can protect people's safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we going to be working with the RCMP on any enforcement of this new speed limit?
Through the chair to Councillor, yes, we've been working with the RCMP together and have shared the results of the speed studies that we've seen.
Okay, thank you. And so, you know, further to what Councillor Au was saying is essentially 16% of people in Hamilton area have said that they want this. I'm fine with trying this out. I'm wondering if we could do some sort of follow-up after 1 year to see if we've heard some feedback, resend out see if people like it, don't like it, have suggestions, or have some sort of follow-up in a year.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no other questions. I'm really good with option 3 for the delineators on Westminster Highway, but I also feel that there aren't very many numbers of people that would really want to reduce the speed from 50 to 30. And I was kind of hoping that maybe we could just do a sign program first, slow down kids in the neighborhood, and try that first. But it doesn't sound like there's an appetite for that. So do you want to call the motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, we'll see what the rest of council says. Thank you. Okay, number 4 on the agenda is the Swift Eco West Management Incorporated Solid Waste License Application for a composting facility. Staff's recommendation is that we do not approve this, and would like to hear more from you. Thank you.
Nothing to add, Madam Chair.
Question, Councillor Wolf.
Just a brief question related to this. First off, can I just get clarification? Is this the company that we were referring to as Montrose, but now this is a new name? Or there is no Montrose connection?
Through the chair, I'm not sure. Are you?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, no, I'm not sure about the previous name, just that they've come in under Swift Eco Waste.
Okay, because I remember being approached by Montrose Eco Waste. I thought they had expansion plans, but I don't ever remember seeing composting facility in their plans. That's why maybe this is just another branch of them or separate. My other question is, what level of communication have we been our staff having with them? Like, have you met with them in the last year? Or is this going to be a surprise to them that we're not in favor?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we work Metro Vancouver, so if, they can convene us with the applicant, but by and large, they deal with the applicant.
Okay. Thanks.
And we have in the past worked with, spoken to applicants directly.
Okay. As I read this report, and the staff did a fantastic job of analyzing the actual application, and it concerns me that there's really no details on the pellet storage, that there's safety concerns about the process. I mean, I counted 15 or 12 deficiencies in their application. So I would be absolutely supportive of denying this for today, because until they can provide the information, we certainly can't go ahead. Any other comments from councillors? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay. Are there any manager reports? Bless you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just an update on Metro Vancouver's Gilbert Road trunk sewer upgrade project.
Yep.
So this project is twinning the existing Gilbert trunk sewer along Gilbert Road, which conveys much of Richmond sewer down to the Lulu Island wastewater treatment plant. The project is continuing, and anticipated completion is the end of 2025. Just some upcoming construction works of note include the installation of the pipe through the Steveston and Gilbert intersection. This is planned to start in March and proceed through April. We are working closely with Metro Vancouver to ensure that the traffic impacts due to this crossing are minimized.
Yeah, we get a lot of complaints about that. I mean, I realize people don't like the noise and the mess, and it's taking forever, but maybe you could provide just an update and more information about the 2025 completion date, because a lot of people don't understand that this work must be done. And so if you could provide a memo on that, I think councillors would find that very helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Are there any other managers' reports? All right, call for adjournment. All those in favor? Those approved? Okay, thank you very much, everybody.